What's up, everybody? Jada Gilman here. We got Miss Lauren Rei as well. And this is
AJ.
Lauren Rei Live, the quarantine edition, coming straight from our homes. We got another great guest coming up. We'll introduce him in just a second. But Lauren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know what I mean? Just another day in quarantine. Still got my job, so I feel blessed about that.
Overall,
just doing good. Staying corona free. The world is a little bit crazy this week. So This has been like the lightest thing that I've been able to do this week. But since I do have two kings here, I want to say I love you guys.
Oh,
I appreciate you.
You are appreciated.
Same to you.
Thank you. But so the world is just like blowing up, right? So This week was kind of heavy. So I was like, we gotta do a show this week. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk about Let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about some love, some relationships.
Okay. I like that.
Quarantining in love, if that even can really happen. But I think our guest may know or can give us some advice about that. So tell everybody who our guest is tonight, Jay.
Yeah, man, he's definitely not even a friend of the show, but a family member. He's been on there a couple times. We always see him out other places, other events, doing his thing. He's a writer. He's at a TED Talk. Just your overall dating expert. So once again, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Mr. Kev Carr, aka Kev Carr. What up, man?
What's going on?
How you doing, man? Everything good?
I'm good, man. Everything good. Taking it a day at a time. That's all you can do.
How are you making out in quarantine thus far?
It's good. I'm actually enjoying the quiet for the most part. I get my moments where I get a little stuck crazy because like your routine is off, but I'm enjoying like the slower pace that seems to be going on, So we might not ever get this again. So I'm trying to make the most of it.
We were just off camera, kind of just chatting, catching up, and you were saying that you caught up on a lot of reading, a lot of writing. Does that mean something's gonna be dropping soon? Or,
yeah, soon, man. I had I've been working on this book for a little while. I actually was going to release it next month initially, but I had some stuff come down the pike, so it'll probably be maybe later in the year, maybe. But it's dope. I'm excited about it. It's like it's a new book. I think it's going to really be good for people that's kind of looking to kind of engage in the dating process in a mindful way.
Can you help Lauren get a date to when she's gonna finish her book? Because
no, this is not about me. This is
No, she gotta listen. Hold on, Lauren. Hold on. We're gonna get to Kev. We're gonna get to all your stuff in just a second. But listen, I've been getting on her about writing her book because she showed me some chapters and some ideas that she had, and it's fucking dope. Like it's really dope. And I'm just like, finish. Like I get it. Writers want to be writers. They want, they want to be inspired. But she has all the material.
That has nothing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I appreciate you staying on. You always on my back. I appreciate that because that's what I need. But you're getting into something I was gonna talk to Kev about being a writer, right?
Okay.
And a first-time writer because this is not his first rodeo. This is like, what's your third book? It will be a third book now.
Yeah, this will be my third. Yeah, I did
third book, right?
Yeah, third book. Yep.
So when you were writing your first book, I mean, how did you jump right into it? You was like, all right, I'm gonna write a book, and it was just like that, or was it something that you had to gradually kind of work yourself up to?
It was a gradual thing. Like the idea, I mean, it was a whole process. Like I got the idea. I didn't quite know. It kind of really just came organically.
Okay.
My first book in that, I got the idea. My first book was called "If All Men Are Dogs, Then Women You Hold the Leash," right? And then.
Do you still have a copy of
that? I should somewhere.
That's funny.
But so in that, I did a survey. And so I did a survey and I sent the survey to like as many women as I could find. And then from their answers, that's what I used to shape the chapters.
Okay.
So, and that I just kind of, I wrote as it came because I wasn't necessarily, I didn't know what it would be. So it was a couple year process.
Okay.
My second book, I did that intentionally. And then I would actually like sit down. That was kind of, it started off as social media content, and I saw the impact of it, so I started compiling it. But in that instance, I would actually sit down at times, like, okay, Tuesdays I write 8 in the morning to 10 in the morning. Like I would sit down and like literally work. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends. I mean, like, and for the book I'm doing now, it started as just me 6 months of kind of just researching, like literally just getting all the information that I could. And then I spent a lot of time outlining and brainstorming. And so I would go, and then that's how I kind of created the first draft of it.
Okay.
And then it sat for like a year because I wasn't ready to put it out. So it sat for a year. I lived for a year. So then by the time I went back to it, it was like, oh, I just feel differently about some of this stuff. I grew, life is a little different. So I updated. And then what I did in updating was I would make sure to, the night before, I would brainstorm on what I'm gonna write the next day.
Okay.
So that would help me. So that way I'm not just starting from zero at the computer. Some days you do, and some days I didn't. But if I can help it, I would try to outline the subject matter the day before so I can have something in front of me.
So kind of like a lesson plan. You had a plan for whatever.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure whatever that topic was, I got everything that I wanted in it. So I would have, you can brainstorm how you want, but I would have the ideas, certain words, whatever sources I was using. And then as I'm sitting down and as I'm writing, at least got a little roadmap to help.
Cool. So you just said something about, you said you lived for a year, right?
Yeah.
So have you seen the evolution in you within all of the books that you have written?
Yeah, I have. It's crazy.
So if you don't mind, like talk a little bit about that, like from your first book up until now, like where do you see the biggest differences, what you would think it would be?
I think the biggest difference is that, like, I think the more you live, right, or at least you should, the more you live and grow, the more you realize, like, life in the world isn't black and white, right? And so that's also relationships, and also dating. So there's a lot of gray that comes with a lot of things in just our day-to-day lives. And so I think that while I think the spirit of the content and the overall, like, principles in the content are the same, right? And they all from my first book to what I'm doing now. But I think that just the writing, I just have become more flexible in my life and in my thinking. And so I think that has allowed for better content, right? It allowed me to understand it's not just one way to do things. And I think that it has allowed me to be helpful to more people.
Cool. So we're in quarantine, and I think one of the first things I heard everyone talking about was, how am I going to go out on dates, especially like single people? Like, do I really want to Zoom date with somebody or FaceTime with someone? Like, how does that work? Or even people that are in something would be like, well, how do we keep this fresh, right? Like, how do we, and we have to be separate. So, what do you think about quarantine dating? Like, what do you think about this whole virtual dating kind of thing? I mean, we were already kind of like online dating per se, but this is on like another level, like virtual dating.
Yeah, it's a shock, right? Immediately, because it's like you said, we were online anyway, but I mean, we didn't live online. Like, we can go out and hug each other and meet each other in person. So it's a shock to the system. So I think that a few things, I think that it does allow us to, it allows for us to, if we let it, to make really genuine connections, right? Because as we engage with people, like, all right, like, first of all, everybody is going through something right now. There's nobody unaffected by this, even if you're working, if you're not working, whatever it is. So we know that gives us some common ground, but because of where we are, like, small talk really not getting you nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so many times I can ask you, how was your day? Like, what, I mean, I got up, I worked out, I ate breakfast, I
stayed in my house,
I took a nap, I ate again. Like, what else you want me to say? So it forces us to be able to really dive into who a person is, which I think is a good thing. And it also forces us to look at other options as to meeting people. Like, many of us still want relationships and love. And so though we quarantine, it's like, all right, how do we do that now? So people who weren't now are on apps. So I've gotten DMs from people asking about, like, setting up profiles and stuff like that. So it's just about really we're forced to really embrace, you know, all the options available to us because of we don't have the ability to kind of go out and meet people physically right now.
So I kind of was thinking, like, I was thinking about this with the whole virtual dating, like the Zoom or FaceTime or Skype or whatever. And I've been going back and forth, but like lately I've been thinking I think it's a good idea, even when the quarantine's lifted, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea after you meet someone on an app or DM or whatever to have this virtual meet before you even go out to meet them in person.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because like how many people, like when you're texting someone, you don't really know who that person is. You only see what they're writing, right?
Yeah.
You don't see their initial responses. They have time to think to write. So I think having this new element, it kind of adds another layer to dating, but it's also kind of getting rid of the bullshit of that first date where it's like awkward, or you have your representative who's not really yourself be there at those dates.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then it's just like a weird, either it's going to go on for another week or you don't hear that person again. But having this kind of virtual thing, you're kind of like setting yourself up like, all right, so for the first time we meet in real life, like in person, we could get rid of all that small talk bullshit and like, you know, whatever. Or if the virtual date's awkward or terrible, you could just delete or exit out.
You're going to end the meeting?
Yeah, like, you know, I got to go. You know what I mean?
Like I'm out. All right.
So what do you think about that concept?
No, I actually have thought people should do that before quarantine. Like, unless you meet, it's a little different if you meet somebody out somewhere and y'all get a chance to engage and see what the vibe is like, if there's chemistry. Then you don't necessarily need to do that because you got something to start from. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like just meeting somebody, especially if you met on an app or Instagram or something like that, like before you go out and spend time in person, like I think it's just easier to help that dynamic if you really try to spark the chemistry beforehand. Just have it like a 20-minute chat, or whether it's, I mean, I know people ain't trying to talk on the phone no more, but whether it's Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, like just develop some type of camaraderie to start it off, because it's hard to kind of just meet, like everybody can't do that. You just turn it on when you meet somebody out, like for the first time. Like we've never talked and we just meet for dinner or drinks, and now I gotta have these conversations. You know what I mean? Like people, like younger people, I'm a little older, so I used to do this, but younger, like they don't remember what it's like. You had to meet somebody and you had to call them first.
Yeah.
What? Like they don't remember that. You
like we were still writing down numbers.
Writing down numbers.
Like you had to call them.
You had a black book.
Yeah, you had to call them. You basically had to cold call them and see if you can get a vibe. Right? See if
you ain't never lied.
Yeah, you know how hard that is. People don't understand what it's like. Like, hello, can I speak to so-and-so? Hey, this is Kevin. We met the other day. So and then you got to start it off. People don't understand how hard that was.
They'll never know. They'll never know. That's so true.
I was watching, because I was watching this movie, and I guess this girl was getting back into like the dating scene, so she signs up for this online profile, whatever. She likes with someone else. They're chatting on the app, and then she's like, "Well, I want to see what you look like, so I know you're not a serial killer." That was the joke. But they Skyped or FaceTime or whatever before they met, and they were like, "All right, you seem cool. Let's go meet up."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of what we're gonna have to do now.
It probably makes the real first date easier.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
It does.
Interesting. Okay.
So online dating, I mean, I just kind of feel like, I hate to say this, but I just feel like that's just how people meet now. Like, I mean, minus quarantine, before this even happened, I was saying to one of my girlfriends, it's like, well, I mean, people don't really, like, we go out, but when we go out, are we really going out with the intention on to meet somebody, right? I just kind of feel like, I don't know if it's the person just being kind of like closed off, but I never felt like when I was out with my girls, the intention was for me to be out and meet someone, right? If it happened by chance, great, but I just kind of feel like that wasn't the goal. And I just kind of feel like people got into the mood that online dating was just it. Like, do you feel like online dating will kind of fizzle out and we'll ever get back to that, yo, let's go out, we might meet somebody tonight kind of thing?
I do. I think online dating is, life is online now, right? So it's only going to increase. That's not going to decrease. But I do think, at least well, who knows what happens in the future, as we know what the past 3 months have looked like. But I do believe that there are always, or at least for a good portion of time, will be that want to and that ability just to connect with people in person. Like because that's an innate desire that we have. And so even if it's not a situation where we are consciously going out looking for people, I think that as long as we just don't lose the open-mindedness of random romantic connections, right? Like how they can still sometimes happen. As long as if we just kind of keep that antenna up, I think we'll be fine. Because when you got your antenna up, you tend to attract the signal that you transmit.
Do you believe that it always happens when you're not looking? So someone told me, they're like, "Oh, Lauren, you'll be fine. It's going to be when you're not looking. That's when it's going to happen for you." And I'm like, nah, I feel like I need to have the blinders off. I need to have it up. Like,
I mean, I think it's okay to be looking. Like, how you find what you're looking for if you're not looking for it, if your eyes not open. So
that's my point.
I think just looking doesn't necessarily mean going door to door. Looking is just right. Like,
I wish Lauren did door to door. That would be hilarious. Like, like hello.
Yeah.
You trying to get married or no? No? All right, have a nice day.
Looking can be, responding to people when they send you messages or DMs, like talking to your friends, telling them what you're looking for, having them keep their eye open. Like, looking can be proactive. You know what I mean? So I think it's always important if a relationship is something that you want. I think that it's important to be fully present in the moment, right? In the sense that you're not so consumed that you're unhappy with where you are, but also you're still aware of what you want.
Well, I mean, I think it's okay to be, like you said, Kev, to be proactive and whatnot. Like, because how else are you gonna, attract someone who you're feeling? Yeah. But on the same tip, like, it's not annoying, but it's just like, all right, come on. Like if someone's complaining about not finding someone, but they don't put themselves in the position, like they don't go out to events, they kind of just go home, or they complain, or they want to leave earlier. It's like, well, you gotta be across the board or not on the board at all. Like, what's going on?
Like, shoot, you can't get wet, you don't get in the pool,
right? So yeah, I mean, I'm okay for people to be like proactively looking.
I'm all right with that. I mean, I get it. I feel like that's so, like, it's old. Like my mom and my aunt tell me, like, girl, stop worrying about it. He gonna come. I'm like,
that's what. You talking about like people that got married to their neighbors?
Marriages.
It was like the only people within the block. Like, come on, man. Like, we're so global now.
I hear the doorbell every day. I'm like, pay it or no. So what do you think about? You said something about like slide into the DMs. Why do you think that the DM kind of like message has such this negative narrative? Like, if someone slides into the DM, it automatically means like sex, or like, can someone
because weren't people just sending pictures of their dicks? Like,
isn't that why? Yeah, like that's, some people are doing that.
Hey, Lauren, how about you tell us like what your DMs was looking like when they first?
But no, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've had both happen before, but everyone's not sending a dick pic in the DM. Like, some people can genuinely have interest and say, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? I see you doing this, that, and the third, whatever," and it can grow into a real conversation. I just think that everyone feels like, oh, if I slide into someone's DM, I'm thirsty, or I'm
That's
just
me.
That's
me. Like my DM game is so terrible. Like, it's so whack. Like, cause I don't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I rather just meet you in person, but not everybody's like that.
Tell them what to say. Tell them what to say, Kev.
Yeah, Kev, I need help. Pro. I need help.
DM pro. I should teach a class.
Yeah, you probably should. I'm being serious.
Yeah, man. You gotta like, but because of the stigma, you gotta do it a certain way because it comes off creepy.
Exactly.
Right? I get
exactly.
That. Because I think that, it's a stigma behind it, and people have like, just for the sake of like trendiness, have almost made it harder for people to kind of like just approach people, But I think that it's just in the way you do it, in terms of like, you got to kind of do it generically. Like, first of all, you don't send DMs to somebody that's not following you. Like that's you can, but I'm like, I think that's a reach, right? And so
establish a foundation of notoriety.
Right. Or if you're going to send them a DM, like comment on a story. Like don't send them a DM saying, hey, what's your name? Send them a DM saying, oh, I love that restaurant, or great pick, and see if you can get some type of traction. Like it's kind of like you got to kind of, it's like, for lack of a better word, it's almost like bait. Like you got to kind of see if you can drop a gem and then somebody picks it up. Right.
Shoot, I'm gonna be shooting my shot from all over the place after this. from half court.
Hey, listen, you got to listen. I shot a couple Steph threes before.
let it fly. Just let it.
And listen, every now and then they go in.
Right.
You never know. So before quarantine, me and Jay were watching this show. Did you happen to get into the whole Love is Blind series that everyone watched, Kev?
I didn't, but I heard all about it. I've like seen a couple of million times by now.
Okay, so I mean, for the people who didn't see it, basically is exactly what it's called. Love is Blind. So you don't see anyone on your first. How many? Like they went like what, 2 days or something like that, Jay, or a week?
The whole thing was like 4 or 5 weeks.
But the beginning part when they don't see each other is like a week, right?
It was like 10 days.
Yeah, so 10 days you don't see the person on the other side of the wall. You can just connect through communication, basically. Now, I think it's a stretch to be able to get engaged from that.
Yeah.
Because that was the end all be all of it, is that you get engaged before you even see the person.
Wow.
I guess my real question is that do you think that chemistry and communication can be so strong that it could lead you to that in that shorter period of time?
Especially without looking at the other person.
Come on, because physical attraction is a big deal.
That's a big deal.
I mean, for me, it couldn't, but I think that it can. I don't know that it can. I think the chemistry, the connection, all of that can kind of lead you to a certain place. I still think at the end of the day, even though these people agreed to engage or whatever, like that sexual and that physical attraction would be needed to kind of keep you there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you can make the connection and kind of start that process, but if there's no actual physical attraction, I don't see how that can work, you know?
Gotcha. So you found somebody, you're dating, you're now in quarantine. How do you think that you can keep the spark, the flame going while you just started dating someone and getting to know them and you're not able to actually go out on dates?
Yeah, it's challenging. I've been thinking about that. Like, it's just, you really got to get creative. You know, like I think that you really have to, whether you're doing FaceTime, whether you are phone calling, you know, whether I know one of my boys, like he's dating somebody, but it was kind of new, and like they kind of like, she had a porch and he rolled by, so he like sat outside on the car, she sat on the steps and they talked. So I think that you gotta really just it's a good and bad thing. I mean, I would say good. It's a challenge, but it's a good thing. And that you gotta, because it's forcing us to use that creative muscle. And I think a lot of times, many of us, we get things so easy and so convenient that in terms of how we build relationships, we might have gotten lazy. So I think that this really, for many, has caused many of us to really think outside the box we should have been thinking outside of anyway, in terms of how do we develop these relationships.
And
that's a good point.
The communication skills too.
Yeah, like people like this person don't know how to hold a conversation.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like with the whole dating apps and just online dating, and even just texting, like a lot of people don't know how to like talk or introduce themselves or greet themselves when they meet other people. And this is basic human interaction, and you can't even. It's really wild, like how dating is now, because like we just talked about, nobody wants to hear a phone call. Why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really weird. So I think like since this has happened, like you just said, like everything's kind of reverting back to, all right, basic communication.
Yep.
This and this, creativity, all right, maybe I'll have deliver flowers to her, you know, whatever. Like I think it's definitely making us work. It's making us think outside the box, and it's less convenient now.
Mm-hmm.
So you said something about like Facetiming, like you got to be like different, do FaceTime, do Zoom and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but like the past couple dudes that I've dated, they only like to FaceTime. What the fuck is that? Excuse me. What is that about? like I hate seeing a FaceTime come through and you didn't get permission.
I don't like unsolicited FaceTime either.
I'm like, yo, like, what is that about? Like, what is it about?
I could be on the fucking toilet. You FaceTime me?
Right. I don't like unsolicited.
It gets the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I guess what? I am a texter. I am at fault, a big texter. You could get me to respond to a text quicker than you could ever get me to answer a phone call. But I'm just like, FaceTime, I feel like FaceTime is so invasive.
But I do like FaceTime.
Do you?
But I'm a visual person. So like
same.
I hate talking on the phone. Okay. And I love the text, but then sometimes you want that dynamic. We vibing. I see your facial expressions. I can see what you mean. Right. For me, I appreciate that, especially if it's a situation where I can't really see you for a couple of days or whatever. That I love I enjoy FaceTime.
So that
I'm the same. Like I rather I'm a visual person. Like I rather let's go meet up. Let's go hang out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you said, through a text, it's just so much. Because you might text something and they might take it the wrong way, but then you gotta explain and it's like weird and it's like I don't know your tone. Then you gotta even with emojis, it's kind of like what does that emoji mean? It's just too much.
Yeah.
But if you say something, you see their interaction and you see their expression. You know if you pissed them off, you know you made a nice compliment. You know right off the bat. I mean that's basic human interaction.
So it was definitely something I had to get like used to because he just always FaceTime me, and I like it. You know what I mean? Like I'm like feeling this bull.
Yeah.
Gotta stop FaceTime.
or like a check-in would be like, yo, can I FaceTime you real quick?
Yeah. Like you good to FaceTime in a little bit?
Now I just know what's up. It's going.
You got that bonnet on? You got that bonnet on? Talking about you got that bonnet? You got the scarf on?
I'm like, yo, like, real story, true story. He would FaceTime me all the time, and I would answer, but I would have it looking up to the ceiling. I would be like, yo, like I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah.
Like, Lauren, stop playing. Just show me your face. Just like, and I'm like, no, like literally, I'm on my couch with my scarf on, like. I don't want to do this. I'm like, why do you keep FaceTiming me? And it was at a point where I would stop answering his calls. I'm like, stop, or I would decline and then call him and be like, yo.
I got you.
Like, what's up? And he like, why you ain't answer the FaceTime? I'm like, I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Frustrate the shit out of me. But I'm just finding that guys are like, y'all must just be visual people. Like y'all need to kind of like see it more. So hear it or whatever else the case might be. But I guess it's easy now because can't see them, you gotta be able to
true.
Whatever. But that's pretty much it. So what's some advice that you would give somebody that's kind of like just right now, maybe just going through possibly a breakup and now they're in this situation and
that's wild.
Like, well, should I get back out? Should I get back on the horse? Should I start swiping right or left? Like, it's kind of a difficult time because now you're alone. Do you jump right back into it, or is quarantine and not the time to kind of really do that?
Yeah, I think it can be. I just think now is the time really for people to really kind of slow down, especially if you're coming out of a relationship. It's a great time to kind of slow down and reevaluate like your past relationship history, what may have went right, what may have went wrong, kind of really just dive in to yourself. Like it's a really good time to kind of get recentered, I think, in this place. Like you can't really go out and meet people. Like you can't really be as frequently social as you want. So I think that while you can get on a dating pool, I think that if you are not 100% positive that you're ready, it's a great time to kind of just allow the quiet to speak to you, so to say. You know, just kind of position yourself to really make sure that when you start dating again, you're in the best place possible and you're doing it from a good foundation.
So
are there sorry, Lauren, are there any dating apps or sites that you would recommend more over than some other ones, or is there any new stuff that you're kind of come across lately?
Yeah, really, I mean, I think
kind of
the
same stuff.
Yeah, you just got to kind of figure out, like, every platform isn't for everybody. So I think that I always tell people, like, find the one that works for you. So whether that's like a Bumble or you know, a Match, whatever, like, just kind of find one that you feel comfortable with. Yeah, man, plenty of fish. But I will say that Hinge, that app has been proven to be the most successful so far at actually people developing relationships. It's something with how they created the app and the algorithm that statistically they produce more actual relationships than the other apps.
Like over like eHarmony and stuff?
I'm not sure about the websites, but in terms of like a Bumble or a Tinder, Hinge is a really good app in terms of like actually both people wanting to do relationships, the steps that they take in how you set up your profile and that whole process.
So me and Jay talked about this before. We had someone else on the show where we talked about the list. You hear a lot of women say, you know, I have this list, or Sierra, give me your prayer, how you got Russell, kind of thing. Like, what was on your list?
Like a check box.
Yeah. Do you believe that men and women should have a list when it comes to seeking someone?
Yes and no. I'm not a fan of like, oh, I need him to be, or I need her to be this, and that. I think your list should be based on the things that you value, because you can't create a healthy or successful relationship no matter what the person has or hypothetically brings to the table if y'all don't share the same common values. And so I think that the list actually starts with each of us determining what we value the most. Right? So like your value might be education, it might be creativity, it could be financial security, whatever that is, because that's how you live out your life. And so I think that instead of looking for a list, so to speak, is that when we engaging with people, we really just trying to identify what the values of this person are. And are those values in line with mine? Because if they aren't, it doesn't matter how great the job is or even how nice they are. We won't be able to create something that lasts and that's healthy if we don't value the same things. And so I think that a lot of that list is like, a lot of things that we put on the list is not really things that help us have healthy relationships, or really aren't proper. They don't really tell us who this person is.
So that last question kind of segues to my next question. Kind of deep diving into your dating life a little bit, if you don't mind. What are some deal breakers for you when you're looking for someone to date or whatever?
Deal breaker, I think for me,
are like, have they changed over the years?
Yeah. So it's like like how we started this conversation when talking about how when I wrote my first book, where I was to where I am now. I think I've had like a lot of different deal breakers over the years. I think that for me, anybody that I really can't be my authentic self with will be a problem for me, right? Okay. So I think that, but also that goes back to our values in terms of like the things, how I live my life. So I think for me, that's most important, because how can we build something if I really can't just be, you know?
Right.
And so I think that for me, it all hinges from there.
Cool. What about you, Jay? What's your deal breaker?
I wasn't prepared for that, but they definitely changed over the
Yeah,
years.
they changed.
Yeah, I mean, because when I was younger, like when I say younger, like in my 20s, someone who had a kid was a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But as we get older, used to be like
that for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but as you get older, we're in mid 30s or so, and a lot of the people that some people have been divorced already. Some they have kids that are 8, 9, 10 plus years old. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, all right, well, you got to adjust it. I mean, besides the obvious stuff like racism and stuff, like
yeah. The obvious.
I'm not really keen when someone's insensitive to situations or people that they've never been like in that situation themselves.
Gotcha.
And they have like strong opinions about it. That like just not being like being kind of like an overall just like a mean person, like just when you're just like shitty for no reason. It's like, why are you so like who hurt you? Like why are you so mad? Like it is not that big of a deal. I mean, there's other stuff depending on certain situations, but like when it comes to just, I think it's just a lot of it has to do with character, really.
I got you. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be able to bring. There's like an ongoing joke, with my family, because like I never bring someone over to like the cookouts or whatever, and I'm like, well, I think my family very high. I think of them very highly. So when I bring someone, I want them to be a reflection of myself as well. So
I got you.
I really think about that kind of things, and especially with my friends and my family. Like I want to be able to bring people into my circles who I don't have to like babysit, or I know they could carry a conversation on their own when I'm not around.
Yeah.
Or even if they want to just hang out with my girl when on some like it's girls' night, we want to take her out. I'm like, all right, cool, like have fun. You know what I mean? So a lot of it's more character based, and and it's situational depending on what happens. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good to hear it from a guy's point of view. So we before we wrap everything up, one thing that I have noticed in myself as getting, I hate to use the word older, so wiser, is that the way you move in your relationships just change in different. And it's that evolution type of thing. So I conduct myself differently in a relationship than how I would when I was I would say even early 30s than how I am like mid 30s right now. Have you kind of like seen, or do you give advice to people that may come back to you and say, well, I used to be this way and I things are changing. Like, why is it that way? Like, what is the advice that you get? Especially, I'm sorry to say this, but especially guys, I think they try to hold on to some of those old ways that they had when they were, out here running the street type of thing. They try to hold on to that even when they get a little older. And it's kind of like, do you ever have to tell somebody like, all right, it's time to put it down. Those are your old ways. Set those things aside. It's time for you to kind of sort of like grow. I think
evolve. Evolve.
Because as a woman, I feel like they always say that we mature faster than men. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I believe it to some extent, but I think that's one of our biggest fears is that we're at a certain point and we have to always wait for the guy to get to the point where we're at when it comes to like relationships.
What you mean though, in terms of like give me an example.
Sure. Like commitment. I think that's like one of the biggest things. Like a lot of women kind of know what they want from the gate. Now, I've said this before on the show. I'm not saying at the first dinner you should be like, I want to be married within a year with 3 kids, and don't scare the brother away. I'm not saying that. Yeah. What I'm saying is that in my own experiences, I've been kind of like got backlash for having an expectation on where I kind of want to be in my life. Like I'm intentionally dating now. Like I'm not dating just to like, oh, I want to have a good time. Like I intentionally am looking for a life partner, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the better question for me should be, so I'm going to take my question back and throw a new one, is someone in my particular situation, what would you tell them how to stay course on that without being too uptight with it at the same time? Because you still want to have fun, but you still have a plan in mind. Like, when do you know you're wasting your time?
Well, I mean, I think you want to kind of get a sense of where somebody is pretty soon, right? So it's like, again, you want to be aware of what you want or what your desire is, but you also want to stay present. But I think that I don't think a first date is too soon to have those conversations as to where are you? Like, it's not the conversation of what are we, but it's just like,
okay,
that's valid.
Just in general conversation. Like, so is a relationship something that you're looking for in the future? Are you like more casually dating? Like, I think that if you can't have those conversations, then that's somebody that you shouldn't be messing with anyway, because that's either somebody that don't know what they want, they're not necessarily upfront or they don't have the best of intentions. Because even if we don't want the same things, if my intentions are pure, we can have that conversation as to, yeah, this is where I am. So I think that it's important to have that conversation early so you know, right? It's like, okay, you know where things can go. And I think that it's not a conversation that you need to keep having, but I think that you just want to keep that in the back of your mind and then remember how the outcome of that conversation as you are continuing to engage with that person to see, okay, so they said they was looking for a relationship in the future. Is the behavior adding up? Right? Like, do they ever mention the future, or are they always only in the moment? Do they do things that kind of symbolize that they might want a relationship at some point? And then if you also are ever confused, circle back around. Like, don't be afraid to, like, hey, listen. So I think sometimes it's just in a wording, like, you don't have to attack people. It could just be, I just want some clarity on this. No pressure. I'm just curious so I can know, right?
Yeah. Do you think that sometimes women set themselves up though? Because I've talked to men who have said from the rip, like, I don't want a commitment. I don't want to be in a relationship. I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to say just out here, but I'm looking to date and casually see where things go. But right now, I'm not looking for that. And sometimes I think we hear what we want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we keep going. Like, you see that more women waste their time doing that instead of hearing it from the rip, or maybe taking a chance.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, I don't believe in taking too many chances with your heart, right? And then also, like, you gotta, when you talking to people, you gotta hear people for what they saying, not basically what you want. So a lot of times, our desires are so much at the forefront of our minds that even as you telling me it's not something that you're looking for, I'm hearing something else. And so I think that it's important just to be accepted, like, hey, this is where this person is, and make your decision accordingly.
I mean, if someone watching this were to take away one big thing out of this whole conversation, what would you tell them as far as just dating in the current climate that we're in, even before quarantine and during quarantine? What's kind of one thing that you can kind of just tell people when they're just out here trying to figure it out?
I think that it's important to, and this is kind of back to the situation that the conversation Lauren had when she was saying how her aunts and telling her, it'll find you. I think that's true to an extent, right? I think that it's important to, obviously, you know exactly what you want in terms of whether that's a commitment, whether that's a commitment that leads to marriage, whether that's a marriage that leads to a family. Like, you should know all those things. But I think that, and it's okay to have those things in your back of your mind and to move intentionally. But I think that even with that, just really focus on making genuine human connections. Because sometimes what we want is so heavy on us that when we engage in with people, we aren't fully present because we're trying to figure out, do you fit this? Right? Do you fit this story that I already have in my head?
Right.
And so I think that it's important that, especially now where we are in terms of, life is uncertain. And we don't necessarily know what the next 6 or 12 months looks like. We don't know what dating looks like. And so I think that even in the midst of that, it's important to not lose sight of what you want, but just engage, like, just focus on understanding the person and having them understand you instead of trying to audition them for a part in your movie.
Ooh, I like that. So I had this one last question. When did you kind of know, like, did someone say, you know what, Kev, you should give dating advice, or did you just say to yourself, hey, I'm pretty good at this, I'm gonna just start writing about it and start giving some people some tips, or you just like, I'm just going to throw against the wall, see how it sticks?
No, it's just something that it just evolved into. I just like, when I did my first book came out of a conversation in terms of I was taking my cousin to the hospital to get her labor induced, and on the way to the hospital, we talking, and I'm like, yo, like, where your boy at? And like, I mean, I love you, but you ain't pregnant by me.
I had that conversation, Kev.
Yeah. And so, but she hadn't heard from him. Like, he was a dirtbag, right? And so But she had also already had a kid by him. And so I think that the thing that hit me was, we sometimes we can't always help who we meet, but we can help who we attach ourselves to. And then we can also help that we allow somebody to mistreat us continually. And so that led me to do a survey. I put the first book out. When I put it out, I didn't quite know what it would be. And it was like, I put the book out. And from that, it just kind of evolved into like that led me to like writing for Essence. And then it just kind of had been my lane for the past really 10 years or so.
So what's next? What do you got? I mean, you said in the beginning you're going to drop another book.
Another book, probably soon. I don't know exactly when, but soon.
Is that the thing you got coming up?
Yeah, I got some TV stuff coming up.
Oh, nice.
That's dope.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be dope. I can't really talk about too much, but hopefully dope. We shot the pilot already in February. So we got it done right before everything shut down. So hopefully we can get back in over the next near future to kind of shoot the series. But I'll give you an update once I can actually.
Cool.
I can tell you about it when we talk off air. But
when when we not recording, we gonna ask you because I was gonna ask you anyway.
Yeah. I think Kev would be great on Too Hot to Handle.
I never watched it.
Oh. Is that the one where they can't have sex?
Yeah.
Okay.
but basically it's like it's quarantine life, but not like because they could, but they're gonna lose money.
Okay.
So it's kind of a weird thing, but it's funny because a lot of those people, they're kind of like, oh, I'm just here for a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you put in these stipulations, and it kind of forces them to kind of grow as a person and whatever. But I feel like you would kill on that show and make mad money.
Can you bring the letters back? The advice like on your page. Remember people would like ask you questions?
Oh, yeah, the questions. Oh, I should bring them back?
You have to. I would be like, girl, now this was stupid.
All right,
you definitely should bring that back. How can everybody find you? How can everybody find you on the interwebs? On social media?
Instagram at Kev_Carr. And yeah, you can catch me on there. Everything is on my Instagram.
Cool. All right, everybody. So again, we have writer, relationship advice, everything. Kev does it all. Kev Carr on the show. We want to thank you for coming through. Jay, do we have anything coming up besides this?
We're working on some stuff. Things are starting to open up here soon. So we're gonna get back to the grind. So definitely stay tuned.
Shout out to our new series, Quarantine Cuisine, that just dropped this week. I was on episode 1. Episode 2 is coming out. We still got Jay and Farrah up. Shout out to Chef Ron Moss for doing that.
Tastemakers. Yep.
Tastemakers. Yep. So make sure you guys are checking it out. Other than that, just make sure you guys are following Water Ice Radio and waterice.com on all of your social media platforms and the Lauren Rei Live Show. We are still on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. So make sure you guys are checking out our quarantine shows. And as long as we're in the house, we're going to be bringing y'all some more heat. Shout out to Uncensored Podcast and the Just Governed Podcast. Our girl, Farrah Stacy, she has her is it Quarantine Time? Quarantine with Farrah that comes out on a weekly basis as well, too. All right, everybody. You already know how this goes. Not all superheroes wear capes, but sometimes
they wear headphones.
Bye, everybody.